I'd just love to warmly welcome everybody here this evening for Orkney's first online foy. Thank you for taking the plunge and joining us from your own homes. And thank you very much for all the generous donations to Orkney Women's Aid that have been made through the ticket sales. Everybody's been really generous, and I've just been totally blown away by how much money we've been able to raise. It's over £330, which I think is a brilliant amount for a simple entertainment to raise, and they're going to be delighted to have that funding. Stromness Writing Group has been meeting during lockdown via Zoom. So we are slightly accustomed to seeing this grid of people in front of us, and we've been writing creatively on various themes, and we'll be sharing some of that new writing this evening. This foy, the theme is Bright Horizons, and we wanted to look forward but also acknowledge some of the difficulties of the last few months, and of the present situation and of the past. So we're going to be presenting a variety of material that we hope will entertain and that you'll find enjoyable. Foys frequently have a performance element, which can be a skit or a sketch or some sort of interactive performance. Sadly, that's not possible this time round. One of the masters of the humorous skit, Fraser Dixon, sadly passed away very recently, and we would just like to mention the intense joy that he has brought to people previously as a long-standing member of our group, and he will be very sadly missed. And he would have loved this evening's entertainment, and hopefully he would have been able to manage the Zooming, and he would have enjoyed it very much. So no sketches this evening, but we will present for you some beautiful piano from the Fazioli piano in the Town Hall in Stromness, some wonderful folk music from Bruce Mainland, because this foy is being held between Stromness Writing Group and Orkney Arts Society, who again have had many of their events curtailed over the last few months, and this is a chance for the members of both groups to come together in a community performance, and really just give it a go. So our foy is a kind of meditation on important moments, moments of warmth, moments of humour, of connection with other people, and ultimately of brightness. That's where we're heading with this. I hope you're entertained with our performances, which are broadcast absolutely live as best as we can, from Orkney, Stromness, from West Mainland, from East Mainland, and from New York as well. This is a truly global community event, and we're very excited to have people joining us from all over the UK as well. So without further ado, we are delighted to be able to share some music this evening from the Town Hall. Something I think many people will have missed would have been hearing the wonderful piano being played. And we have a very talented young lady going to perform for us this evening. Krista Belvilacqua is going to begin by playing us some Mendelssohn, Lied on Wort. Apologies for the pronunciation. So that's the first item we've got for you this evening, and I hope you all really enjoy it. So we'll pass over to the Town Hall. It may just take a few moments Krista to get comfortable and for the sound to be arranged. So if you bear with us, take a drink of whatever's to hand, and please enjoy this performance. Thank you. That was lovely. Thank you very much, Krista. And I think without further ado, we're going to go on to Krista's second piece, which is the Sonata in G by Mozart. We're still awaiting one of our performers. So Krista, if you're able to go straight on through to the second piece, that would be brilliant. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. It's sounding great. That was absolutely superb. Thank you so much, Krista. That was just an absolute delight. That was just really, really gorgeous. What a lovely way to start our program this evening. Lovely to hear that piano played so beautifully. So we're moving on to our first reader this evening is Sunil Angris, whose actual piece he will be reading is titled Bright Horizons. And it's a lovely meditation, which I think you're all going to really enjoy. So I'm going to hand over to Sunil now for Bright Horizons.
Thank you, Gabby. For me, Bright Horizons began a train of thought leading straight to these islands. The sequence goes thus. I fell in love with Orkney for many reasons, but chief among them was that the light and the horizons here aren't bright. Words conventionally used to describe the opposite of bright include dark, lackluster, and dull. Of course, any word is open to interpretation and relative in meaning. However, these descriptions intrigue me and prick my desire to articulate more clearly the reason why the light on Orkney seduces me so powerfully. For me, bright horizons are those I've witnessed in India, the Côte d'Azur and Cornwall. Colours are acrylic vivid, and even when the sun is low in the sky, one normally has to shield the eyes from excessive colour bombarding the retina. They are the bold colours Van Gogh yearned for and left his native Holland to find, discovering them around the area of Arles in southern France. His paintings from that period take a step change in colour and brightness from the earlier still lifes and landscapes in earthen hues in Holland to a bright vividness that takes the breath away, setting the bar for geographical bright horizons. They waken the senses like a jolt of electricity, but often make it difficult for my eye to judge landscape perspective, distance, and nuances in contour. By contrast, Orkney light is more like a watercolour. Even at its most bright, there is a pearlescent diffuseness, a soft gossamer quality which enchants rather than overwhelming the looker's eye. This ethereal sense is retained through the seasons, even in winter when the light is often the Google definition of the opposite of bright. That is, it's dull or dark. However, it's never lackluster and always retains a vitality which reflects well the people, wildlife and fauna native to these climes. And the soft, diffuse nature of light never compromises the clarity of the view. When staying at Harrier earlier this year, my walks from the hill down to the loch gave incredible views of Hoy. Often the contoured details of those hulking hills around Rackwick, which dominate the skyline, never look clearer than in the slight haze and subdued light of an evening sky. The only places I've witnessed similar air quality are the extreme poles, especially when the air becomes so cold that one can see minute frozen water crystals suspended within it, and the surrounding landscape shimmers like a giant snow globe. It was these qualities which slowly but steadily seeped into my conscious and subconscious thoughts over many years, until when the time came for my wife and me to decide where we wanted to spend the rest of our days, there really was no other option which even came close. And that quality is there regardless of the surroundings, from the wild Atlantic coast around Bursay, Marwick or Yesnaby, to the Shire-like calm and beauty of the lochs around Harry, to the wider, flatter landscapes of East Mainland in Dearness and Tankernes. As I sat at my dining room table in Ham, committing these thoughts to virtual paper, I took in a vista stretching across Scapa Flow from Hoy in the west to Cantic Head Lighthouse due south to John O'Groats in the southeast. The weather changed through the day from thick mist to clear blue sky to overcast streak, and each change brought its own quality to the light, which was as pleasing, alluring and mesmeric as the others.
Thank you, Sunil. That was just lovely, really beautiful. Lots of thumbs up and clapping. And so from such lovely poetic descriptions of Orkney, we move on to our next performer. Bruce Mainland is going to liven us up, I think, with a wee bit of music here. We're really grateful that he's joined us this evening, adding some more variety to our performance. And so this is Bruce Mainland with Best of the Barley, written by Brian McNeill. Thank you, Bruce.
My Uncle Jim, he served his time on the shores of the Forth as a joiner, and £3.10 a week was all he earned. But the wages were better working Michigan pine, so he shipped on an ocean liner to make a decent living with the trade he'd learned. And the shore he reached in 23, home of the brave and the land of the free, was dry as the devil's tongue on Judgment Day. But to find a tram in a foreign land is a natural gift of a Falkirk man, and Lady Liberty looked the other way. For though I've often heard my uncle say, for he's the best o' the barley, cream o' the crop. Easy on the water, boys, I'll tell you when to stop. Would you please charge your glasses with a rare pure drop, and drink to the best o' the barley. My Uncle Jim was a child o' his time, and the tricks o' the time, they were dirty, and the dirtiest trick of all was the one they played on the working man's dollar and the poor man's dime, between 29 and 30, when they killed all the steady jobs in the building trade. And the only way that Jim could see was to play the game with Lady Liberty, so no one ever taught him all the rules. And when fainter hearts were homeward bound, Jim sold Michigan ice for the pound, with a leather strap and iron hook for tools, just to show them Yankees how to keep their cool. For he's the best o' the barley, cream o' the crop. Easy on the water, boys, I'll tell you when to stop. Would you please charge your glasses with a rare pure drop, and drink to the best o' the barley. My Uncle Jim could keep good time when the band played an some reel, and he loved to waltz away those summer nights, and the spring in his stride kept him in his prime through the turns of fortune's wheel, as it whirled in through the darkness and the light. And to dance that dance called history, Jim took the hand of the century, and he never let her steal a backward glance. With the D-Day beaches to the Salt Lake shore, he whirled her round and round the floor, to show him how a Scotsman takes his chance. And he never lost a measure o' the dance. For he's the best o' the barley, cream o' the crop. Easy on the water, boys, I'll tell you when to stop. Would you please charge your glasses with a rare few drop and drink to the best o' the barley. Here's to Scotland and the best o' the barley.
Thank you so much, Bruce. That was just really, really lovely. Such a beautiful, beautiful, wistful song. It's gorgeous, with lots of reference to America, which is where we head now to our New York correspondent. And I'd like to welcome Tom Miller, who is going to share his piece, Messenger Lines, which was another theme behind the building of this foy, messenger line being the first line a boat throws before it comes into shore, and how during lockdown, during being separated from many people in our lives, we found new ways to throw our ropes to shore. And Tom has a sideways look at this, and he's going to read his piece, Messenger Lines. Thank you, Tom.
Oh, thank you, Gabby. And thank you, Bruce, for the fellow country feeling here, and also to Sunil for painting such a beautiful picture of the horizons in Orkney, which inspired this poem as well as Messenger Lines, because for me, that transatlantic voyage that so many took from Orkney to North America and back just has wonderful resonance for me. And so here is the messenger's line. In the shipboard saga you now attend, the role of messenger has just one line, and that's not till the very end, when he cuts a dashing figure fine. Then, on his words thus timely given, the fate of cast and crew depend, who, with the sea's foul moods, have striven to reach the sunrise side of the storm-black tide. Others on board play bigger parts, antagonized by wind and waves, afraid that failing nerves and hearts may send them to their graves. All around the water's rage, the messenger just a rope, coiled and safely stowed off stage until he speaks of newfound hope. And so the playwright's grand design, so near complete, may yet fall short, unless the messenger speaks the line that brings the boat to port. An arc of well-flung words be cast as the battered craft makes land at last. Then the messenger speaks. The target's hit, I've done my bit. The ship is safely moored. The play is done, safe harbor won. Let all now rest assured that once again I'll have my say when we sail back the other way.
Thank you, Tom. That was just lovely, fantastic, really envious use of rhymes and words there. Really gorgeous. Thank you, all the way from New York. Lots of reaction from our audience there. That's brilliant. And moving on to a favorite poem of one of our writing group members, Kate Barrett, is going to share with us one of her favorite poems called One Perfect Rose, written by Dorothy Parker. Sit back and enjoy.
A single flower he sent me since we met, all tenderly his messenger he chose, deep-hearted, pure, with scented dew still wet, one perfect rose. I knew the language of the floweret, my fragile leaves, it said, his heart enclose. Love long has taken for his amulet one perfect rose. Why is it no one ever sent me yet one perfect limousine, do you suppose? Oh no, it's just my luck to get one perfect rose.
Thank you, Kate. It's the wonderful wicked wit of Dorothy Parker, which I think matches the wicked wit of Kate Barrett very equally. Thank you very much, Kate. That's just gorgeous. And now we're going to move on to Carrie Welling, who come hell and high water has made it here today after untold technical calamities, and we're delighted she's with us. And she's going to read a poem which was written some time ago, but is very delightful, and it's titled For Tove Jansson.
A little bit about Tove Jansson. This is a book I read 45 odd years ago, and there's a character in it called Mimble, and this is a little person who enjoys the simplest things. And this summer, when I was sitting in the garden, at the beginning of lockdown, I hadn't kind of quite figured out how to keep busy, and so there was a little bit too much sitting in the garden, and I thought about Mimble, and this is what I wrote. And well, I'd written this some time before, but I thought of it a lot, and it suits this past summer as well as way back. So, for Tove Jansson. It's very easy to enjoy yourself when you're a cat. Stretch out in the long grass. Expose your soft belly fur to the hot sun. Your eyes vertical slits among the stalks. Half open those eyes occasionally. Stretch out your paws. Wake properly to twist and glare at the noisy rooks. Settle back into snoozing, chin resting on the cool stone. Eyes not so tightly closed, now you're aware of me watching. Sitting too close on a garden chair. Finished.
Thank you, Carrie. That was just lovely. And I think you're right. Over the summer, the very, very simple things have become more important. Simply watching a cat or a bird or the clouds float by has allowed us to rediscover parts of ourselves perhaps long forgotten. And that poem absolutely puts its finger on it. That's just lovely. Thank you so much. Next, we move on to Linda Gask, who has been working a lot over the last few months in her professional capacity, and has written a piece called Living Through Grief, which is incredibly poignant and ultimately moving towards bright horizons. And she's very kindly going to share this really quite intimate and acutely personally observed piece with us this evening. So if I could just invite Linda to begin, and thank you very much, Linda, for sharing this with us this evening.
Thank you, Gabby. I've gone back to working with counsellors in Manchester, where I have always worked. And this is a reflection of what they tell me on a Friday. I'm not working at the front line myself, but I supervise them on Zoom, just like we're having this evening, a conversation over Zoom. And this is my reflection of how they spend their time, and I support them through this too. Yesterday, they took him away in the ambulance yesterday. She was weeping. I didn't say anything at first, but silences always open up like yawning chasms of time on the telephone. A few seconds passed, or was it minutes? She was still weeping and sniffing. Eventually, I couldn't stand it any longer. I had to say something. It sounds really hard. Did that sound trite, I wondered? But she agreed. It was awful. Her voice dropped. He said to me, "Don't worry about me. I'll be back home soon." I can see him there in my mind's eye, mouthing the words, smiling and struggling to breathe, trying to be brave. Why do people do that? Why do men always do that? I couldn't get into the ambulance with him, so I went round to my mum's with the kids and got a taxi up to the hospital, but they wouldn't let me in to see him. They said, "You go home and get some rest." But I couldn't. I knew something was wrong. I knew it. She was sobbing now, with sharp intakes of breath in between. Was she feeling ill too, I asked, but she said no, not really, not anymore. All of them had tested positive and had been staying at home. He'd been really poorly, but he'd been getting better. He had, she whispered, trying to convince me. It was hard, the isolation, because there wasn't anyone really to do the shopping except her mum, and her husband didn't get on with her mother. He never has. Did she notice she'd used the present tense because she started to garble? But that doesn't matter now, does it? Does it? Nothing matters anymore because he's gone. It was so sudden. Sometimes it is. A nurse rang me this morning. She was talking faster now, as though she had to get it all out before she stopped breathing too. The nurse said he'd been much worse than they realised. They put him on a ventilator, but it was too late. Then she paused again. Silence. In the background, I could hear children and someone shouting, "Keep quiet, your mother's on the phone." I'm so sorry, I can't stop crying. I can't believe he's gone. I can't. Is he really gone? He's not, is he? What am I going to do without him? What can you say? Nothing. You can only be there, bear it, not go away, avoid anything that sounds remotely like, "You'll get over it in time, you know." She carried on. "I spoke to my doctor on the phone. He said to ring you, that you might be able to help. But I don't know how you can. What can you do?" I don't have any answers. We support people on the telephone. Those whose loved ones died 20 years ago and have never yet found solace, and those whose wounds are fresh and raw like hers. She's reached out for our help. I breathe in deeply, pause, then tell her all I know. Maybe I can listen.
Thank you, Linda. And it is really one of the greatest gifts to be able to listen. And I think that piece really conveys that, really touching. And this year has been such a mixture of moods and emotions, looking forwards and looking backwards. Thank you, Linda. And we're moving on to Piers Kane now, who wrote this poem some time ago and read it to us at Writing Group, and it's always stuck with me that there was something really, really touching about it. And I asked him if he would read it again for us this evening, and I'm really delighted that he has decided to agree. So Piers, if you'd like to read your poem, that would be brilliant. Thank you.
I grew up in Ruislip in Middlesex, a suburb on the outskirts of London, an area that's sometimes known as Metroland. I wrote this poem for my mother. It's called Ruislip Woods. It's in 4 parts, and the part I'm going to read tonight is called Winter. A walk in winter, stark and overcast. The tracery of twigs is black on grey. We squelch through mud and wait. and wait. At last, the lazy basset hound appears, unfazed. We walk on, mother and son and errant mutt, and talk about exams or something else, I can't remember. Juno follows, but reluctantly. This memory's less about the dog and more about the time. The drips of water falling off the twigs, the bird's song, grey light, sense of peace. I'm there, waiting for a change of gear, a big step out. And every winter, when I can, I walk these woods. It's where it all began.
Thank you, Piers.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. That's just so evocative. All the tiny details. That was just brilliant. Thank you. Oh, it's two really moving pieces. Thank you. We're moving on to a small change in programme because our missing performer has arrived, and we're going to hear from him now before Krista plays her next piece. So we've got Les Cowan now, who's going to read to us a piece called Robert's Radio and Brownie Box. This piece captures some of what was happening, particularly earlier this year, when announcements were suddenly just made and our lives suddenly changed in ways that really intervened with the way we lived our day-to-day lives. So Les's piece's writing goes back to one of those moments historically, and gives us a wonderfully vivid description of how this moment affected one family. So Les, I'm delighted you're here with us, and if I could just hand over to you now.
Yeah, thanks. Apologies for the technicals that delayed my attendance a little bit. One of the things I enjoy about the Stromness Writing Group is how we are often invited to step out of our normal genre and write something different, or get an unusual kind of prompt that works on our imagination. So this was a response to 1 week where we had a set of photographs, old photographs, and had the choice of looking at whatever they represented and getting some inspiration from that. So I chose a photograph of an old wireless. So the piece is called Robert's Radio, but really radio is an anachronism there, isn't it? It should be wireless, and brownie box. And so we were thinking about some of the anniversaries we've had this year connected with the Second World War. And it looked to me like a pre-war valve wireless. And that got me thinking. So here we go. Robert's Radio and brownie box. They say that earliest memories are often the strongest. Nowadays, I have no idea what I did yesterday or where my glasses are today, but I'll never forget that day. It was a Sunday, and we would normally have been going to church, but Ma said no. Mr. Chamberlain was going to make a broadcast on the wireless, and we should stay home to listen. Pa was never that keen on church, so he was happy. I got to keep my Sunday school collection money, so I was happy too. Rodney wasn't happy though. He was 14 and knew that if things went badly, he might be called up. I was 8 and couldn't contain myself. What is Mr. Chamberlain going to say? I kept asking Ma until she said, that's enough, Maisie. It's not a game. We had bacon and eggs and toast for breakfast because for once we weren't rushing to church. Ma made a pot of tea and we all sat round the new Robert's wireless. It was wooden and tall, arched at the top, and reminded me of the church doors. I suppose it was a portal to important things as well. Pa had only bought it the week before. I went with him to the shop. He told the man, I want a new wireless and it has to be British. He was very proud that way. Finally, at 11 o'clock, the announcer came on and introduced Mr. Chamberlain. I've heard that speech many times over the years, but even if I hadn't, I think I would still know it off by heart. His voice sounded firm and steady, but very sad. He said, I'm speaking to you from the cabinet room at 10 Downing Street. This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently, this country is at war with Germany. After that, we had no heart for anything else. I left the last of my toast. Pa went to dig in the garden and Ma washed up. Rodney got out his stamp collection. That was 80 years ago, but I remember it like yesterday. 2 minutes, but changed everything. Pa volunteered and became a stoker on a convoy ship. He was sunk by a U-boat. He came home, but was never the same again. Rodney died in North Africa. I met an American boy over here with his family. We became sweethearts and married in 1948. The last thing I remember of that day was when Rodney suddenly got up from the table, went through to his room, and came back with his new Boy Scout edition Brownie box camera. He didn't say anything, but took a photo of the wireless. It seemed fitting. I still have it on my mantelpiece. I know we got through it all and things got brighter after the dark days of war, but all the same, that day changed everything for everyone. It's my last memory of the last day of peace. Please God, may I never hear such a thing again. Thank you.
Thank you, Les. That was so evocative. That was just really took us back. And I love the way it was so embodied in that object of the radio. I just think that's that trying to capture that moment of when things changed for you, when an announcement was made. That was really great. So we're now going to move back to the town hall, where I'm hoping Krista is ready for us, and she's been waiting patiently. The heating has been off in the town hall for long periods, and I do hope they're not getting too cold in there and they've managed to warm it up this evening. The piano is in fine tune, and I'm looking forward to this next piece very much indeed. So Krista is now going to play for us Passia number 1 in B flat by Bach. Thank you very much, Krista. Bravo, Krista. That was just absolutely breathtaking, superb. What a display of skill. The video certainly couldn't keep up with how fast her fingers were going, and that just sounded absolutely exquisite. Just enjoyed that immensely. That piano is just sounding so fine, and what a lot of dedication and work to be able to perform at such a standard. Just really delighted to be able to hear that this evening. If you can hold some of that wonderful music in your head, I'm going to read for you now a poem which I wrote after listening to that piece of music repetitively. It was one of the weeks, as Les was saying earlier, we have such a variety of prompts for our writing, and one week we used music for our writing, one of which was the piece which Krista just played for us. And so I meditated on that music and I dashed something down, and it's called Ripples. I'll read it for you now. Ripples. Water runs, tide races. Tang teems with sand hoppers, and birds raft in the shallows. Undertow catches up grains of sand, calls them into the flow, and slipping free, they waltz away. The sky is pitched tight above, mackerel scales echoing sand in the high, high arching sky. Gold windows blink bright, blades of grass catch the breeze, and a melody of flowers sings roadside. Running feet on sand, on hall, undeterred, unashamed, coming to show and to hug, heart beating with it all. the play of the water, the skittering birds, the high clouds, the dancing grass, and the coming home to hold. Thank you. And so we move on to our second performance from Bruce Mainland this evening. And this is a wonderful, tender song called She Loves Me When I Try, originally written by Doogie McLean. I'm just looking forward to this immensely. So thank you, Bruce, again, and we'll hand over back to Stromness Town Hall. Thank you, Bruce.
Here comes the morning, cool and clear. There is no reasonable chance that it might disappear. Here comes the evening, still the same. We are just passengers upon this godless ghostly train. But she loves me when I try, thinks about me when I'm gone, and she helps me when I can't go on. It's another market, another sale. It's another reason to believe we're ahead and cannot fail. But there are deadly dangers we must endure. There are so many different ways we can never quite be sure. But she loves me when I try, thinks about me when I'm gone, and she helps me when I can't go on. There is no ending to this tale. There is no destination on this long and restless rail. Here comes the morning, cruel and clean. There is no reasonable chance that it might disappear. But she loves me when I try, thinks about me when I'm gone, and she helps me when I can't go on. When I can't go on.
Oh, that was just gave me goosebumps. That was just lovely. Thank you, Bruce. Really, really gorgeous. So we're coming towards the end of our program now, and that was just lovely from Bruce. And that's bringing us to our final reader this evening, John Butterfield, who's written something which he wasn't sure was a poem, I think, when he first read it to us. And I think I'm quite sure that it is, and I'm really delighted that he's going to be sharing it with us this evening as our final reader. So I'd just like to introduce John Butterfield reading his poem, One Day.
Hello. Right, I've got this short poem called One Day, and it was what came to mind when we said the phrase bright horizons. Just goes like this. One day. One day we will dance again. We will go to shows again. We will sing in choirs again. We will travel the world again. We will hug without fear again. And we will be carefree again. But for now, we just keep on putting one foot in front of the other while watching the eastern horizon as we wait for that day to dawn.
Thank you, John. That just sums up so much of how living one day at a time, one moment at a time, whether it was a lazy cat or watching the blades of grass flitter, that's really what it's been about, watching that eastern horizon. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So I'd just like to hand over finally to Jean Leonard, who's been at the town hall and has helped organize the music for this evening, and she's been teaching Krista piano, so it's very much through her that we've had such delightful music this evening. I'd just like to pass over to her for a vote of thanks. Thank you, Jean.
Thank you, Gabby. And in return, I would like to say how much I've appreciated what you have done tonight, because you've thanked everybody so profusely and so fully and sincerely that I don't have to thank everybody individually, although I should. But I will mention the people here because we've been in the town hall and had a lovely evening, the lovely hall, the lovely acoustic, it's warm, don't feel sorry for us. Thank Krista because she's worked very hard during lockdown. I think you can all tell the strength of her technique, but what she needed most was to perform, and she got that chance tonight really, really well. Thank you for that. I've known Bruce Mainland for years, never actually spoken to him, so I was able to do that tonight as well. And Mike Partridge has come in and given us the best possible chance of performing, and we really, really must thank him. Thank the Art Society Committee, Marion Ashburn, and especially who's had experiences of voice before, and it's so lovely to work with another group. Thank you all.
Yes, we're getting more applause. Lovely. So I hope that Krista and Bruce can hear some of this slightly disorganized applause. And it's just been a brilliant, brilliant evening. And that was Orkney's first online foy. And I hope you've enjoyed it. It's just been brilliant to get people from the community together. And personally, it's been brilliant to be able to do this performance with my mum and dad watching. And that's not a chance I get often to do. And I know other performers have had members of their family.
Don't know. Those two, do you think?
So
yeah,
we'll do one more raucous round of applause, and then I'll say good night and thank you, everybody.
I think we can switch off then.
Yeah, we can.
Yay!
Bye then, and thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank